Welcome to the Notorious Scoundrels, a Star Wars Legion podcast bringing you the latest news, general perspective, and competitive discussion.
Welcome to In the News.
The Human Torch was denied a bank loan. Or are we recording? Yeah. This is a special report, Legion special report. We got points and errata and rules changes. All dropped finally. So the long-awaited points update. So we're gonna just talk about that today.
That's right.
What?
Yeah.
Nice.
How are you guys doing?
About that.
I'm fine.
I'm good.
So I want to be clear. I don't think they've actually done any release of them. Like there hasn't been any of their social media, right? Like it's just people going to the website and getting the PDF. I don't think
they posted.
There was a Twitter post today.
Oh, was there? Okay.
And Facebook too. Yeah.
Oh, I don't pay attention. Okay, that's my
There
fault.
was not. So the points actually dropped yesterday. Yesterday being the 5th of June,
Yes.
and there was no, to my knowledge, any sort of tweet or release yesterday with the points drop. And then today was the updated CRB and then the errata and stuff like that. And they did do a tweet basically saying points update, errata, rulebook are all updated, and here's the link. So
there it is.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. I didn't see that. I do like this. They wrote in conjunction with our Star Wars Legion points update doc, we've added and updated. Like, I think my guess was that was accidental. And yesterday,
maybe a slightly early button push.
Yeah. And somebody, vigilant fans just were like, points are up.
Yeah.
I imagine someone just hitting refresh. I don't know who that is because it ain't me, but someone's just hitting refresh all the time.
Yep. F5.
Yep.
Refresh.
Listen, we're excited.
That's
I
great.
mean, I think that's a testament to the game still, right? We're still excited.
Oh, yeah.
We're still 5 years into this podcast, just about still talking about this game.
It's
number
coming
one
up on 6 at this
Legion
point, right?
podcast in all of the world. Just
That's
so
right.
everybody's aware. If anyone asks you, I see these Facebook posts all the time, and I don't promote our own stuff. But when someone's like, hey, what's the best podcast to listen to for Legion? I want you guys to tell them it's us, because it's true.
There you go.
Or else. Yeah.
There you have it. The definitive.
That's right.
This is a news update after all.
Yeah,
So
That's right. There you go. The news.
That's fact. All right. How about we talk about points? Should we?
All right.
You know what? Why don't we? Before we get to points, why don't we just quickly lead in with there's really only like 3 changes that are not points that are relevant. So why don't we just lead with those, and then we can kind of discuss points at the same time? You want to do that?
Okay. True. That's fair.
All right. So those 3 changes are: I'm concerned no longer works with Guardian.
Hooray! That's what
Thank
we all
God.
asked for. Yeah, we all asked for it. Thank you.
Clearly,
Great change.
Yeah.
Yes.
Clearly,
thank
not
you.
supposed to be a thing, or at least seems like it shouldn't be, given that unconcerned doesn't work with anything else.
Right.
Giving the people what they asked for. Thank you very much. Thank you. And I will say too, look, a quick turnaturnaround on that as well.
Yeah.
Right? Because
Dark Troopers
not
were
that
released
old.
in March, so 3 months. Yeah.
So good for them. Yeah.
Yep. So that's number 1. Great. Awesome. No objection from anybody, I don't think, unless you're somebody that really liked using Guardian with Dark Troopers, and even the people that were playing were like, yeah, this is horrible. I'm sorry, everybody.
I'm sorry for what I am. Here we go.
Second, no more Operative Vader and Blizzard Force.
Great.
Hooray! He never should have been there in the first place because it makes no narrative sense.
Right. It's a good thematic change.
Perfect.
I think because of this third one, I think it kind of is irrelevant for balance reasons.
I think there
maybe
may
that's
be
a little hot takey.
There may be a 4th change.
Okay. Well,
I'll get to it once you.
There's a smaller 4th change, yes, but yeah.
Okay. Third is Force Choke. You can no longer target a mini.
Right.
Yay!
Target a unit.
I have many opinions on this one.
I know you do, and that's okay.
Same.
But yay! It should have been this way from the beginning. It never should have been a mini in the first place.
Glad Tim's on, because to have a contrary opinion to what both Kyle and I are going to say to this is going to be good.
I I might be somewhere in the middle of you guys. We'll see.
Oh, okay. Then no, this is very good then, because I could not be farther away from the middle or Tim's side.
Okay. Oh, wow. I thought you were going to be on my side, but all right. That's
No.
fine. That's fine.
I have good
All right.
reason. So
Okay.
What's the fourth one?
number 4 is disabled. So when a
Yes.
vehicle gets disabled, a unit that is disabled cannot reverse or strafe and must spend 2 actions to perform. Here's the change: a non-pivot move action. So you can
Yes.
pivot.
You can still pivot and move.
action.
You can pivot.
Oh, okay.
Well, not pivot and move, but you can pivot. So at least you're not stuck in place.
Right, for one
you can
for
at
one
least-
action, right?
Right,
Before
right,
it would
right,
have
yeah.
cost you 2 to pivot. So,
Oh, I see what you
because
mean.
it's disabled. Yeah.
yeah,
So can
which
you
is
can
nice.
you yeah, okay. So you
It's
can't
good for-
pivot and move, but you could like pivot and shoot.
yeah,
Right.
Exactly
It's great for
right.
an
Okay.
ATSD.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
Like,
that
if you
seems
want your-
that seems good.
If your
This
ATSD
is-
with your white armor saves gets disabled, at least you can spin around and
Yeah.
still take a shot.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, seems good. Quality of life. Was that blue text or did somebody just like read
Blue
through the entire
text.
CFB
Yeah,
and
it's
see it?
blue
Okay.
It is
Okay.
blue, yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Yay, blue text. Thank you, blue
Yeah.
text. Yeah,
Yes,
thumbs up.
finally.
Can we
It's
give
so
AMG
good.
some props for bringing
It's-
back the blue text?
Yes, it's so helpful.
Okay.
Please. It's so helpful.
Yes, keep that up.
So better,
Yeah.
so much better.
Okay. All right. Well, why don't we get into the points, and when we get all the way back around to choke, then we can have that
I
discussion.
knew we were coming back to it. That's right.
Yeah, but why
Sorry
don't we hit
about
the
that.
faction by faction stuff first?
Fair
Does that
enough.
sound good?
Yeah.
Sure.
Oh yeah.
All right. At first, I want to give props to, I think it's Avocado who made this Excel
Yeah.
thing that has the various actual changes on it in a
Yep,
Delta form,
color-coded.
not just the color coded. Yeah. So
Yeah,
props to
yeah.
Avocado for that. That is what I'm using when I'm looking at this, and that is on the Legion Discord
Same.
somewhere.
Same. That's what
Okay.
I just pulled up right now.
So before we go
Yeah.
line by line, when we go to each faction, why don't we just overall our reaction, and then we can go line by line.
Okay, sounds good.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. Go ahead, Jay.
Who do you want to start with? You tell me who to start with.
You go
You-
for it. You
you.
started. You brought it up.
Let's start with CIS.
Oh, I see what you mean. Not overall, the
Yeah.
entire points changes, do the faction overall, and then line by
Yeah.
line in the faction.
I
Got
see.
it. Okay. Yeah, let's start with
Was I
CIS.
not clear, Kyle?
No, I
all
was
right.
confused.
My bad.
Okay.
Let's start with CIS. Similar to me, AMG hates CIS. And the further we can drive this faction nose first into the ground, the happier I'll be. So I am happy with all the changes because there weren't many, and this faction's I hate him.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I thought they got a little bit of love.
They got some extremely small cuts to some things that were extremely bad and are still extremely bad.
But Grievous is so cool looking, man.
let's hit a yeah. I don't know. The cuts they got to some of these units were almost like insulting. Like
But the Droideka, yay!
Droideka's -5. All right. Like it doesn't change that they're terrible.
Still
Well,
not going on my table. Still
and I-
beautiful, but no.
Listen,
no.
I'm being a little facetious as like CIS is literally the only faction I'm 100% caught up on paint wise. But yeah, listen, I mean, between these point changes, I know we're going to talk more about force choke, but between force choke and these point changes, CIS got the worst of all the changes, or not as good of changes.
right.
They got it.
They
The
didn't-
I
worst.
think that's fair.
They didn't
Yeah.
explicit right. They didn't get any increases, which is
Right.
good. But all of their force users got their best thing that they did completely nuked.
Yeah.
And they didn't the units that got help were like kind of the worst units on their roster anyway, and they didn't
Yeah.
really get enough help to become good.
Not even close.
There's one exception,
Okay.
I think, and that
All
is
right.
the super tactical droid. -5 on the generic super tactical droid.
See, I like bringing him before, so now that
Yeah.
makes me want to bring him even more.
I think he was definitely less common than like Kalani, so this is probably
All right.
to contrast him a little bit. And now
Yeah.
you think about it,
Yeah.
that one seems meaningful to me. Dooku -10 is clearly meant to offset the choke thing, but you can't like delete choke from the game and then go -10 Dooku. Here you like feel better about it because Dooku
Right.
wasn't really being run before, so
Right. If you only did the points to force choke, that would have been good. And I think my opinion would have been different. But when you do both the things, now it just doesn't matter.
And I think even if you just did the points to choke, you would have needed like minus 15 on Dooku at least. Don't get me wrong, I like Dooku, but he was already a bit too expensive for what he was doing.
He's too expensive, and so I'm glad to see him go down, because even with the choke change, yes, but I'm glad to see him go down because I think that will encourage more people to try him, because he's a cool unit. He's really interesting.
He's my favorite Force user.
With or without choke, I still think he's interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. Sorry, droids.
Yeah.
Hey, Grievous got cut 13. Give him credit where credit's due.
He did. I mean, what is he now without training upgrades and stuff?
I don't have it pulled up right now.
The gun is free, so he's 150.
Okay.
Which is 5 points less than Anakin.
Still not worth it.
150. No. He's got reds. I think he's more of an option than he was before, at least.
Well, clearly, but
yeah,
he wasn't an option before.
I saw people bring him. I don't know who those people were, but I saw it occasionally, like across the way, on the demo tables.
And then BX shields and the full BX went down. Went down minus 12. There's still a BX unit with a full BX with the shields and their sniper is still 104 points.
You just bring a Magna, right?
Yeah,
obviously,
right?
Yeah. For 2 more points.
Maybe there's some other strategy outside that I'm just not aware.
You literally get a Magna card with their rocket for 2 more points.
Yeah,
yeah. You just bring that.
They have 3 more wounds. They have retinue. They have an awesome melee attack. They have a better attack pool once you get to range 2.
Mm-hmm. But the shields.
But
the shields, yay!
Yeah, sorry.
And poor droidicas. Poor droidicas.
What are droidicas now? 70?
70.
The same as his Empire speeder bike.
I will say, Ben made a good point when we were talking about it the other day. That they do block line of sight because they're vehicles.
They do.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, maybe I'm just saying.
That's not.
You can do the same thing. You can do the same thing with a spider droid.
I know.
Right.
And you should. And you should.
And you should. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can even give the spider droid a gun, and then it's
it's actually good.
Give it the laser cannon or the flamethrower, and it's the same price as the.
Yeah, I mean, I think for droidicas to be even close to good, they needed to come down to like 55.
Or better yet, and this is something I want to maybe discuss at the end, is they needed like some kind of errata to buff them.
There it is. Yep. They need something
to change what they do.
Suppressive, yeah, because they throw some good die pools, but like it's just suppressive, and you just kind of roll what you roll, and good luck.
Their dice pool isn't even that good because they don't surge.
That's true. Well, that's what I mean. Like, there's no way they don't surge, and they don't have any reliable way to get a lot of tokens or like enough aims to make it worthwhile.
And their AI is actually pretty punishing if you don't give them orders.
Oh, for sure.
Because they can't aim. So,
but they can go to the wheel mode, and you can wheel across. So you can use it for bombing run if you want to. But again, just do something else. Just play stabs.
Right, which are way better.
Yeah.
Just
for 5 more points, you get stabs.
Yep.
Yeah.
Anyway,
pointless. This okay. So this is kind of what I was saying in the end, or in the beginning, was like, okay, like most of this seemed pointless. Like it wasn't enough
with
to
droids.
do
I agree. With droids, I agree. There are some meaningful changes.
No. I'm only talking about droids right now.
Yeah.
I think some of the other changes were really good.
Sure.
I would say my overall view is like 99% of what they did was good.
Yep, I agree.
It's like it's just 1%.
Yeah,
I agree with that. Well, and like you said, it's not even that what they did to CIS is bad. It's just kind of like meh.
It's not enough, right? It's like it takes a unit from like garbage tier to like less smelly garbage tier for the most part. The only, let me put it this way, in a less in a less colorful way. I think the only unit on this list that this actually matters for, in other words, the only unit that where it changes what you're taking is the super tactical droid.
Yeah.
And maybe Dooku.
Again, I would still argue Grievous because I think Grievous is going to get put into more lists than he would have before.
Okay,
But
no,
yeah.
I don't think so. Here's my thoughts on this. Okay, as someone who's played CIS, right, and who likes Grievous, I think Grievous is a cool model, a cool idea. This did not persuade me in any way to take him. It did not persuade me in any way to take Dooku.
That's fine.
Yeah,
I'm not
right.
persuaded. Like,
Okay.
Yeah, you're
or
still
droids.
running. You're still running Magnas. You're still running.
Yeah.
Not all these together necessarily, but you're running
Sure,
Magnas.
sure,
You're running B1s with the 5S or the rocket. You're running Cad Bane. You're running Steps.
Yep.
You're probably. I mean, maybe you're still running Ventress after the choke nerf. I wouldn't.
I mean, honestly, you know what I think you're running now with Force users between this and the Force push forums bull crap. I think Gunline, somebody in our Discord said Gunlines were seeing an uptick because Force users were seeing a downtick, and I agree with that. So I think CIS, I think you maybe want to think about a Bosk, like a Bosk Gunline list would be
or
really
Bosk
good.
and Cad Bane together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
Double
that
bounty.
would be good.
So it's double bounty.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, don't forget too, like AAT is still solid. You got a red save tank with all the impact out there. At least it's a red save. So if you're going to bring a tank, might as well bring a red save tank.
I guess
I'm not saying you should.
Yeah, it's just like you are never getting a single auto cover shot with that tank. Not one time.
Fair.
Right?
That's fair. Yeah.
I mean, you've run Sabres recently, right? It's the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. The Sabres. Well, the Sabres are lower to the table, but yes. Yeah.
Which is totally irrelevant.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true. You're right. Touche.
I would have said before these if the change, we're going to talk about these, but with the Mercenaries changes to Shadow Collective, you could have had an argument for Snail Tank Black Suns, but I don't know now anymore. So I don't know.
And B2s didn't get any cuts.
Right.
So
I'm kind of surprised by that, honestly.
Yeah.
Because I've not seen a whole lot of B2s, and they're cool. I want to see them on the table again.
I think I agree. I have a ton of them.
Same. I have 6.
I'm one of those. Right. I'm one of those degenerates that bought like maximum B2s.
Yep. I literally have 8 B1s with 6 of the upgrades, 6 B2s. Like I was ready to go with B2s, and they were like, nah.
they were good for like a year. Roughly.
There's a little stretch.
Yeah.
It is the funny thing, and this is just more of a meta conversation, but like it is funny to me to now have been doing this for, like you said, like 5 years, something like that, and playing this game this whole time, and looking at as we get these changes and seeing everything like ebb and flow. Like, man, everything changes. Like, it was not that long ago that CIS, like, we would have been begging for them to go up and be like, please, God, this is so oppressive and this is awful. And then things changed, and it happens.
Yeah, and I'd like if we could go into Rebels, because I do have something to say along those lines.
Yeah,
with that.
I have a closing thought.
Yeah, go ahead.
Droids. It's basically that, like, I think they still have some good lists, some competitive lists.
Yeah,
but this didn't change what those are.
No,
there were ones that were already that before.
That's fair.
Yeah, because before this change, like I was messing around with Boss Gunlines before this, going, I think this could be all right, and not great, but I think it could get you.
Yeah, Cad Bane, Bosk.
Yeah.
B1s, Magnus, Staps.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
All right, Rebels.
Yeah. So talking about Rebels, I think some of the, I saw a lot of people saying they didn't think it was enough and that Rebels are still bad. And I think it was really good changes to Rebels, some things that definitely needed it. But my thing is, I think Ewoks are really going to change the dynamics of Rebels coming up here, and what Ewoks do, and some of the lists that we're going to be able to build with Ewoks that we think we're going to be able to build. And so I really think that I think that could change once the Ewoks hit, and that we could sit here and say something now like this wasn't enough, Rebels are still bad, and then Ewoks could come out and things could just shift. quickly, because
Yeah.
that's how this kind of stuff works. But
Yeah.
overall, I think a lot of good changes.
Well, and I would say too, like Rebels, I agree, lots of good changes. And I hate Rebels, but I still understand they
Wow.
are a faction that people like, and that's fine. Can't stand them, but I have to respect them as a opponent. But okay. Anyway, yeah, lots of good changes. There's some really, really good changes in here. I mean, like Lando down 10 is great.
Yep.
What's his face gun going down? He's huge. I don't know.
Cassian.
Yeah.
I don't feel like that one was necessary. Cassian was already like
Yeah.
to the extent that there were already like competitive rebel lists, which one could debate before this. Cassian was
Yeah.
in those lists already.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Um,
For sure.
So that's, to me, that's the biggest one that stands out to me, is like a unit that was already good getting a pretty significant cut, and now he's like super interesting. I don't know if the rest of the faction is enough we can get to that, but yeah, all these changes are great.
I for a long time, and it was partially just because of the local area I was in, we had a lot of Mando players and Rebel Mando players especially. So I really hated Mandos for a long time. I had a deep-seated hatred for them. However, that was years ago. And like I said, things change. And so realistically, they needed to come down. So I'm glad that they finally got adjusted.
So if I may, and
Okay.
this is something I've said on this so this is really funny. Do you guys remember at Nova and PAX, I played this list, but at Nova I had the 12 activation Cassian K2. So I'll just real quick. It's Cassian K2, Pike Syndicate Capo, 2 Rebel Vets fully loaded, 2 medium blaster troopers, 2 Pike Syndicate soldiers, and with their gun and recon intel, and then three snipers, right? So when they made the changes to the Pike Syndicate, I had a 20-point bid before they make the changes to the Pikes, right? So it was a 10-point bid when they made the changes. Well, now it's back down to 20 points.
It's the exact same cost.
Yeah, it's a 12 activation list. It's got a 20-point bid. And it's like they're all really good activations, because like the vets have offensive push and recon, the Pikes have their disruptor and recon, the Syndicate Capo has vigilance, K2 has transponders and blaster. Like, I mean, it's like fully kitted out list, and now it's back down to a 20-point bid again, which, hey, I'm happy.
I will say I'm glad that with all the Mando changes, I'm glad they didn't adjust Sabine herself, because I think
agree with that.
Yeah,
we see a lot of Sabine, and rightfully so. I think she's really good, but like I think she in particular is so easy to overtune, undertune, however you want to word that, but like just over adjust and then just becomes a problem.
Yeah, I wouldn't say she was like super good, but she was definitely good enough before this. And with
Cassie and Sabine lists were solid. I've seen them, they're decent. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's so Clan Run got essentially -12, which is a lot. And then the normal Mandos got -3 on the rocket, -4 on the unit, which is 7, and then the best guy duelist got another -4, so that's -11 on the normal Mandos, which I think is also great.
It should be noted, not to jump over to Mercenaries already, but just to note that only the Rebel rocket got discounted.
Correct.
Yes, just important to note that for anyone that's,
which I think is fine, given that you can use the the Shadow Collective rocket at any range.
Yes, yeah, agree. But just important to note that for people building.
Yep. The Mando changes I think are great. I think it's interesting again if you want to do a bunch of Mandos in one list. Leia also got a discount, who was kind of a common thread in those lists previously when they were good back in the day. So
and like Jay said, you're going to see more of her with Ewoks coming out.
Yeah,
that teamwork card's good.
Yeah, the Wicket, like I was looking at Rebel lists today, the Wicket double spear Ewok with like the axe and the various training upgrades that you want on them, which comes out to like 74 points per unit. That whole package, Wicket plus those two, is like less than 200 points.
Oh yeah,
I was
it's
making some
scary.
lists with like Wookiees and like Tauntauns, and just to like, I don't know. We'll see what the Bright Tree Village rules look like, but I think you can almost make like a more hilarious fur spam list with just normal rebels than you will be able to with straight Ewoks.
That's probably
We'll
true.
see.
Yeah,
We'll see, because you can incorporate Tauntauns and Wookiees also. Wookiees feel like a kind of a glaring omission on this list. With the
yeah,
scale changes and
yeah,
the increases to all their training upgrades that they normally take in the
yeah.
last update. It would have been nice to see Wookiees get a cut here, both the Rebel and the Republic Wookiees,
Yeah.
but the other glaring omission on this list for me is Rebel Troopers.
Yep.
Yeah, what do you? Again, could become a whole bigger conversation. I know, but like points wise, what do you do with Rebel Troopers?
So if I were to, so I think the short answer is I would not use points because
I agree.
think
That's
I
right.
think the
Yeah,
issue is like a structural one and not a points one. Um, if I were to only use points, I think I would target the heavies.
that's fair.
I don't
think
know
that's
that I would
fair.
go cheaper than 40 on a naked unit.
No.
Right, right.
But yeah, I would probably cut the Z6 by like 4 to
Gosh,
6
yeah.
points. I would
I
probably
haven't
cut the
seen.
DLT by 2 to 4. The
Oh,
SX21 they actually did cut on here by 2, but it's still like,
I haven't seen a Rebel Z6 in so long.
I know, and it used to
That's crazy.
be like one of the most efficient weapons in the game.
I know. I remember.
Um,
I remember being scared of him.
yeah, and there was I have so much nostalgia with that dice pool. I love that dice pool. But yeah, it's just the fact that they can't consistently get dodges, the fact that like the pool kind of hits like a wet noodle now, especially that you can basically never get open shots. You're just crit fishing on 10 dice with no critical keyword, which is not very good. So yeah, I would have liked to see either some errata or some significant cuts to the Rebel Trooper heavies, because I feel like, well, these changes are all great and probably needed, except possibly Cassian's rifle. You still have to build a list around core units to some degree, and I think Rebel Troopers were the clear, obvious core problem. No pun intended. Core problem with Rebel list building previously, and that's you're getting discounts elsewhere now here, which is good, but they didn't really like address the foundational problem with Rebel list building.
Right. I agree to a point. I will say though, I feel like even compared to CIS, compared to all the other factions, I think Rebels are the ones that depend and should depend on their core the least.
I agree with that.
Because just even just on the thematic side, right? Like they're the heroes, they're all the special forces, all this stuff. Like I think there is something to that, but you still got to make it work.
You should be able to take core in some non-minimum quantity and feel decent about it, even if you're not like building your list around it.
Right, you still got to make it work, and right now it doesn't quite work. No,
I mean, you're just taking vets and MK2s still, basically, as that
guaranteed. Guaranteed.
And it's such a weird, because on one hand you could say, based on some of the changes that they've made or not made, that they're skewing away from heroes and trying to make it more of a rounded army gunline type of game, right? But then they're not really pumping up some of these core units that need it in order to make that true. It's this weird like lever pulling that they're doing that doesn't align.
I wouldn't say they're skewing away from heroes. I would say they're consistently nerfing force users in various ways, but the bounty hunters are all still fine, including, by the way, Empire Baba.
Still good.
There's still lots of good commanders that are not force users. So I would say it's just the force users that are kind of getting the character nerf stick. But anyway, sticking to Rebels, there is one force user here that actually got a pretty big cut, and that's Commander Luke.
Yes, I'm glad you mentioned that,
-10.
because I wanted to hear what your thoughts are on that. Where I don't play Rebels, so I don't have a whole huge opinion on that.
It's definitely meaningful. I think it's interesting actually in echo-based lists, especially since Tauntauns also got cut. Like you can now run, back in the day when Tauntauns were in their prime, like triple Tauntauns with Commander Luke was like the best list that existed.
Those were the dark times. So
Yeah.
those were not it was not the day, it was the darkness.
Well, okay, fine. In the dark days of Tauntauns. And now like there's a force org that lets you run 4 Tauntauns and also Commander Luke. And now you can fit all of those things and still get to 10 activations. So I don't know if it's good. Tauntauns were kind of a mixed bag with the new rules. Since climbing is way easier and Tauntauns basically can't get on top of things. That's not great for them if there's a bunch of buildings on the table, but Tauntauns have a way easier time now getting cover. Since there's no more 50% height rule and you only need, to stick a toe or a tail or whatever behind cover to get it. So they should be harder to kill. I know that like the silhouette, the notch-based silhouette is freakishly tall. So,
it is.
I guess
Please don't get me started because I will, I'll go off about how that's affecting other creature troopers in the game.
Yeah. So they're easier to see, right? You can't hide them behind like a wall anymore.
Yeah.
No matter how hard you try.
Right. It's kind of a mixed bag.
No, it is.
But I feel like that could be interesting. Echo Base has good cards. An Echo Base list with Tauntauns and Commander Luke just got significantly cheaper. They were already using Rebel Vets and MK2s, which is your core choice for that. So,
right.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I think he's also interesting alongside Cassian. When Cassian first came out, Commander Luke Cassian was a popular pairing because Cassian's cards are great on Commander Luke. He definitely got hurt a lot by the deflect change since he doesn't have a training slot for Into the Fray. And previously he's still super good at generating dodge tokens, but now those dodge tokens really don't help him.
Yeah.
In melee, which is and he's only got 6 health unlike Jedi Luke, so that's definitely like punched to death by Stormtrooper territory without any way to access surging saves at all. So I think that could still be an issue for him. I haven't played him since the deflect change personally, but I don't know. I think it was clearly needed. I'm not sure if it's enough to make him good, but I'm looking at him again. It's interesting.
Yeah,
especially since Cassian also got the -10.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
I think he could have come down another 5 points.
I'd rather they just give him a training slot.
That's true.
I mean, like Han has a training slot. Why doesn't Luke have a training slot? Yeah.
This is Commander Luke.
I guess. Han's a commander.
I don't know. Oh, that's true. Always forget that. He shouldn't be, but okay.
I mean, he literally goes through training in the movies. Like, he should probably get a training slot.
He's like the only person that we see go through movies or go through training in the movies, actually. Other than, in the prequels, obviously. But anyway. That would be how I would fix him is I'd give him a training slot so you can take ITF. Or just unnerf deflect. That'd be fine too.
Yeah.
That'd fix a lot more things than just Commander Luke, but I don't want to go there right now.
But they really don't like Force users. Anyways.
Except Anakin.
Yeah.
It's completely untouched by any of these nerfs. Except, I guess, technically the Force push form thing. But he wasn't really like an objective playing Force user anyway.
That's fine. Yeah, he's fine with it. It's
all right.
All right. Republic. Should we stick with the good guys here before we? I think we should leave Empire for last.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Well, speaking of Anakin, right? There you go. That's a good segue. There you
go. Yeah. With Republic, I mean, here was my takeaway with this. Since Republic's come out, the way they go through the meta is they generally have one list at a time that's good. Like it's just one list. It's Rex, it's Yoda, Saber, it's Anakin, Padme. It's always just one list that's dominant, and they don't really have any like other lists that even come close. And I'm thinking, I don't know, but it feels like This is going to open that up a little bit more, and I could see that there could be maybe two to three lists that are one probably being really good, but the other two being like just behind it. I think that was
Yeah.
my view.
I would respectfully disagree with the first part of your statement, but I agree with the
Wow.
second part of like it's opening it up more.
Oh yeah, okay.
Regardless,
Go ahead.
it's
Well,
opening it up more. So there you go. Like that's
Really?
good, and it opens up more options. Yeah.
but what were?
I don't think it's fair to say that there's only one thing you had to play this Republic.
No,
thing
no,
or
no,
else
no.
you're
That's
just
not what I was
screwed.
saying. Not that you had to play. I was saying there was
There's one obviously good list.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's
Okay,
what
fair
I was
enough.
saying.
Fair enough.
No,
Okay.
you can play whatever you want in every army, right?
Well,
But there's one
obviously, yeah, yeah.
obviously top tier meta list that
I gotcha.
for that faction at a time, where like
Sure.
just
sure.
recently Empire had two,
Yeah.
Three, at least.
three, right?
Yeah.
Three. Rebels have had two or three at a time
Yeah,
before.
yeah.
CIS has had a couple at a time. Gar is the only one that ever have felt like there was only one at any one time. It's never been multiple ones, and I think
Yeah.
this helps that a lot. So I really liked all the changes here.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I disagree.
Okay.
So I think that Republic was kind of already the second best faction behind Empire before any of these changes.
Okay.
I think before this they had, I want to say, really three competitive lists. An Anakin gunline, usually with Padme, a Yoda / Bark list, sometimes with Chewie, and
I was
then
gonna say sometimes with Chewie. Yep.
and then a Anakin Bark list, basically. The introduction of Cody, I think, is telling for how, at least for me, from a Republic player's perspective, looks at these. And that's when Cody showed up, people looked at Cody and they were basically like, okay, how can I slot him into an Anakin list? And Michael Snyder just recently won Bay Area Open with a Cody Anakin list. And I look at these point changes as an Anakin player, and I'm like, okay, these are all great. How can I slot these into an Anakin list? There's one crazy idea that I was banting about earlier that I think actually could work that has nothing to do with any current Republic lists. But I think after this, I think these are all cuts, which is great. But I think you're basically you're still looking at Anakin. I think this is going to be a hot take. I think he's obviously the best Force user now in the game. I'm going to go further and say, for me personally, he's the only Force user that I have any interest in playing at this point.
You think
Yoda.
he's better than Yoda? Oh, did
Well,
you say
Yoda's
Yoda too, Tim?
for
I just
cost.
said Yoda. Sorry,
I mean,
was trying-
obviously Yoda's
nice.
better in absolute terms, but he's also like 50 more points.
Oh,
That's fair.
Okay.
That's fair.
Um,
yeah.
So anyway, I think Yoda's the other one that you could justify playing in a competitive setting. But so after this, I think you're looking at Anakin lists still. You're just like, can I add a fluttercraft instead of Barks? Can I add an ISP instead of Barks? Look, Padme got 5 points cheaper. I was already doing that. Great.
Mm-hmm.
So
I'm glad they did that, by the way. Side note, but
yes.
I'm glad they brought her down after all the adjustments we've had to Exemplar and everything like that. I think it is
I
high
think
time.
I think it's
bring her
fine.
down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're a Yoda player, you're like, hey, how can I do flutters instead of Barks? That's interesting. And then I think there's probably a third additional option here, and this might just be a new release thing, but Cody just came out, and Cody's a vehicle commander, and Saber, ISP, and Fluttercraft all got cut in this thing. So I think you could possibly make a case for a pure Cody vehicle clone gun line list. And there's one additional benefit to that, which is the biggest issue for pure clone gun lines previously was dark side Force users. And now it's like, do you really need to worry about countering that? I don't know. I think that's an open question.
Yeah.
Maybe we can save that for a future episode. But
Yeah, I was gonna say it's building a lot. What I was doing before we started recording was trying to build with Cody and things like that because he's really interesting. Again,
yeah,
we'll talk about this next show, but I got to play with him recently for a weekend, and it was really fun. Really fun. I think he's really interesting. But yeah, the tease is I think the vehicle might actually be a trap sometimes, and I don't know if you need to always bring a vehicle with Cody. But anyway,
yeah, that's
we'll
fair.
come back. Yeah.
So yeah, I don't think that this drastically changes what the overall archetype that you're bringing with Republic. I think it's still Yoda. I think it's still Anakin. I think maybe you're adding like a Cody gun line.
Yeah.
But you're still not going to be playing Republic Wookiees. You're not going to be playing a clone gun line that doesn't feature Cody, or a Force user. So that's definitely, don't get me wrong, that's more variety than Republic has had, but that's not a high bar.
Right.
So,
right. No, I agree. I think Republic's in a really good spot.
I agree.
Not just competitively, but also just feels good, right? Like there's a lot of options on the table for you to bring without people laughing you off the table. Like an ISP was kind of funny sometimes when you would see it, but like, okay, yeah, whatever. Okay, sure. And now you're like, okay, like it's a lot cheaper, especially if you do a double ISP. It's 30 points cheaper now. That's pretty big on this faction.
Yeah, it's what, they're 90 points now. Yeah. I mean, that's decent. That's the beam is it's 90. The beam is 2 red and 2 white 3 times.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If you do a double beam ISP, that's a lot of suppression you're throwing out there, if nothing else, bare minimum. So
and I think usually it's probably nothing else unless you're fire supporting, because every single one of those shots is going to bounce off cover. But
more or less, yeah.
But I mean, maybe you can build a fire support list with this is the extra crazy thing that I was talking about. I posted this on our Discord earlier, but I think you can do like possibly a fire support list with 2 ISPs, 3 fluttercraft, a bunch of clones, 2 clone commanders for double direct, and R2D2. And you can actually get it to 11 activations.
Oh, I mean, I can see it. I can see it. Okay.
And it's also an objective list because you run the speeder objectives, you run the speeder deployments, which are good for R2 scoring secret mission, and you have 11 activations. So you run like bombing run, breakthrough, KP, and then I don't know, you'd have to figure out what you want your 4th one to be.
Yeah.
But you've got 11 activations with R2. That's 12 scoring units functionally for breakthrough and KP.
Yeah.
5 of your units are speeders.
Right.
Well, technically ISPs are not speeders, but they're really fast because they're speed 3. They have a ginormous template.
I was just going to touch on that. I feel like a lot of people forget, even when they're playing them, like playing with them, ISPs are fast, man. They're speed 3, and that's a big base.
And they can strafe.
Yeah.
So it's a super big base and it's speed 3.
And no, go ahead.
Yeah. So I think that could be interesting. I want to try it. Yeah. I want to mess with it first because that would require me to buy 2 ISPs and 3 fluttercraft.
And let me tell
which
you,
I currently own.
Yeah, I have no fluttercraft.
That's a lot of complicated models to put together too and travel with.
That doesn't intimidate me as much. But
the ISP is so annoying only because most of it's actually pretty easy. I have 2. I've only put together 1. There's a panel, one of the front panels. It is held on by these 4 individual little like itty bitty sticks, and just gravity does not work that way. I'm sorry, whoever made that model. That's not how gravity works. So if you don't have super glue accelerant, I don't know how you're going to do it. Good luck, kids, because you're out of your luck. Like,
I'll keep that in mind if I end up getting the ISPs. But I'm sad to see no Obi-Wan on here.
I know. It's also interesting. 2 things to point out is, well, I guess 3 things. The Lat went down 5 points. Not a soul cares.
Who cares?
Yeah. Rex went down 5 points. His is not a problem with points. His is a problem with the unit itself.
I actually think it could be interesting. I don't know.
I think he needs more than 5. If we're going to do just points on him, I think he needs more than 5 off. But
I wouldn't go further than 10 though. I think he's better than people give him credit for.
I agree. I wanted 10. I'll meet you at 10.
Okay. Yeah, I think he's better than people give him credit for. Scouting Party is still a super good ability. Call Me Captain is still awesome. Yeah, I don't know.
That's fair. And I think the other big one too is like I just love this that full arcs went down 6 points. Like
Yeah,
I
501st.
enjoy that. Yeah, I enjoy it a lot. I like full arcs. I think they're really cool, and I hope that we see. I think those 6 points could potentially be enough to people to retool their list a little bit and make it fit to go from a strike team up to a full arc. Obviously, you got to drop a few things and make it work, but I think that could be just enough to push it over the edge, which would be great.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to see them like fix that 501st command card while they're at it, but you know.
True.
Sorry, my cat of all things is messing with the blue screen. All right. Usually it's one of my kids playing peekaboo with the green screen. All right, you guys got any further thoughts on Republic?
No, I think good. Yeah. Good.
Yeah, these are all great.
Good stuff. It is good stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I think honestly, and this is kind of a theme with these for me, I think all the changes they made are good. Yeah. As far as points is concerned, like none of these are objectionable. I think most of my complaints are to the extent that there's like omissions. But if that's all it is, that's overall, like I'm you know, I don't want it to sound like I'm not super happy with these because I am. I'm also a realist and a perfectionist. So
that's okay. Yeah.
All right, Mercenaries.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe
and let's save Boba for the Empire discussion.
That's fair, yeah, because that's where it belongs.
Yeah.
But I actually wish Black Suns had gone up 2 more points. Not a huge amount more, but I wish they'd gone up 2 more points. Just the base body. But that's just me.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's fine.
Yeah.
As someone that got their soul crushed by Black Suns at Worlds, they are a very one-dimensional unit. They're ridiculously efficient, both offensively and defensively.
Right.
But they're also, you know, like they've got one trick. It's a really good one, but I think net 4 points between the Magdat and the base unit, you know, that's meaningful.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I do think you probably could have gone 2 more and it would have been fine, but I also think this is, you know, net 4 basically. I think this is fine.
Yeah, that's fair. I just because, and again, obviously, like you said, you know this firsthand, but like they just have the potential just to completely just delete units.
Every time they shoot, they remove a unit from the table,
and then they delete any kind of unit, pretty much, right? I mean, unless you get an amazing deflect range shot, like which is going to be hard to pull off now. I know, but like unless you just get really lucky, like. They're really going to delete pretty much anything they shoot. They're going to delete armor. They're going to delete troopers, like just gone. And
they melt stuff.
Know.
Yeah,
there's no you got to get close enough.
I would say though, like, I think it's good, and I mean the real lists where they were the most dangerous was in Lila's list, or like you know, or they. Somebody was playing like an Empire list with like Vader in them, and that was pretty scary. But you know, I think if you look at like a Mercenaries list, like Shadow Collective list, like she was running what 6, you know, so that's that's
24 points.
24 points. That's a significant chunk of your.
Oh yeah.
So I think 4 was reasonable, and it really makes you start to question things, right? But it doesn't. It doesn't kneecap them. Which is good because they're still a good unit, you know. You just so I like it.
Fair.
Good.
It makes them harder to spam.
Yes,
which I think is good.
Yeah, true.
The other ones, they're fine.
Yeah, the Super Commandos, Gar Saxon got -5.
Yeah, I mean they
the Gunslinger and the Marksman both got -2. Yeah, they needed it.
You could probably go a little bit more, I think, because they're just really not usable.
I don't know if I would go that far. I think you have to be careful with the Shadow Collective. I mean, Mandos in general, but the Shadow Collective Mandos because of the fact that their rockets are usable at any range.
That's fair. Yeah.
Where you can combine a rocket with that range 3 dice pool, which is actually pretty good. You know, give it blast.
All right. So let me ask you this, Kyle.
A lot of critical too.
Yeah.
Let me phrase it this way. If I told you, okay, you have to make a Shadow Collective list. You don't get to you have to make a Shadow Collective list to go take to Worlds today. What are you taking? Does it have Mandos in it?
I think it might. I actually made something earlier where it was like, it was not Mandos. It was Cad Bane and swoops with pikes. I don't think it has Maul in it anymore. Unless, I mean, I guess you could take non-Darksaber Maul with Saber Throw and just run him like Separatist Maul. That's probably what I would do. You're not doing Choke Maul anymore. I mean, he doesn't have Master of the Force.
I mean, if I see a Maul running at me, I'm still scared by it, man. I don't care if he's got choke or not. He can still just delete.
Yeah, but I think, I don't know. To me, Shadow Collective has always kind of been like the Maul faction. And I know Geo Mastery is still great and all that, but yeah, I don't know. I don't think it includes Maul anymore. I think it's Cad Bane and a bunch of stuff, personally.
I think it definitely doesn't have to include Maul anymore, whereas before it probably would have.
Yeah, yeah. If you told me, Jay, that I had to make a Shadow Collective list tomorrow for Worlds, I think it would either be double bounty or it would be Cad Bane single bounty with some other stuff, either swoops or Mandos. So probably with pikes, simply, and maybe like one or two Black Sun.
So hey, speaking of swoops went down too. There you go.
They did.
They went 5.
And I think 65 points for like, a fast speeder unit. Like I don't think you can go lower than 65 points for a unit like that. Their offense is still really, I don't want to say bad, because like there's that like extremely rare, but nonetheless like unicorn situation where you can shoot the pistols and you can do 2 overruns. And that's actually like an obscene amount of dice if you can pull that off. But you have to be like basically right next to your target at the start of the turn to try to pull that off. And speeders don't want to be there. So this is structurally, I think they would get a huge quality of life change if they made it so that you could double overrun the same target in one move. Like just make it so that overrun 2 allows you to throw both of those bikes
that'd be big
attack into one pool and call it a day. That's how everybody thought it worked when they first came out,
because that's what makes sense. But yes.
Right, yes,
because you have 2 bikes, so why would they not both overrun? Right. But okay,
I think they instantly become like very usable if they do that.
As
it is their objective, bombing run and breakthrough units basically.
Yeah,
which is
I will
fine,
say too that sometimes overrun can take you by surprise if you're not understanding or even just ready for it. Like if you see it coming, you're just like, I don't care. I've had it where I faced it where like I still won, but it was a bigger uphill battle than I thought it was going to be. They got behind my lines, and once they get back there and they start, for lack of a better term, swooping around, like, and they started going left and right, like it's zigzagging all over your lines, that can be a bigger problem than you might think.
Yeah, like when you throw all the dice, think about a speeder bike, right? An Empire speeder bike. Their attack pool is considered to be pretty good with double rainbow, right? 2 red, 2 black, 2 white. Now they can shoot that pool at range 3, which is significantly longer range than swoops can engage at, and it has impact in it natively. But swoops have on their pistols, which is range 2, but they have 2 black, 2 red, which is just 2 white dice short of that Empire speeder bike pool. Yep. And then if you can get both of those overrun attacks in, that's another 2 red and 4 white on top of that, which is actually like, that's a lot of dice. And those overrun attacks ignore cover because they're basically melee attacks. So
right.
Like once they get right up into your face and they start swooping back and forth and getting all 10 of those dice on target every turn, that can certainly add up.
Yeah. Especially if you're running a gun line, because like you said, the ignoring cover on the overrun to me is the big part, because you could be in the best position you want, but they're not going to care. They're just going to do whatever they want to you.
Yeah.
Now, if they're that close to a gun line, they're probably melting pretty quickly because they're bikes, and bikes never want to be close to anything because they're fragile.
Yes. Yes. Right. Yes. This is very true. Yes.
But I don't know. I think it's interesting from an objective perspective. I still don't want to take them as like a unit that I intend to have kill things, but
Hmm.
I don't know. All right. Any
All
other?
right.
We should maybe we I don't think we mentioned it before. The quad laser cannon on the bus went down by 3 points. So that was cool.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah. More
Okay.
impact. More impact. There you go, kids.
Sure.
Hooray.
Still a lot of points for that thing, but yes.
I know.
I think it's fine.
When you compare it with those aims from the tactician, it can be really scary.
Yeah, I think it's actually pretty good. I don't even know if that
I've
one needed a
seen-
cut necessarily.
I've seen it do some scary things.
Yeah, I mean it's only 3 points, so it's like, all right. If it was good before, I think it was good before. It's still good. If you weren't taking it before, you're probably not still taking it with 3 points. So
right, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, that's not going to be that's not going to be one of those things where somebody's like, oh, this is interesting now. I wasn't taking that before, but now I'm going to.
No, that got you an upgrade somewhere else, is what it did.
Yeah,
on something else on your list.
Yep. All right. Empire.
Let's do it.
The good guys. Yay.
Yeah, I think everything's good here. I was happy with everything, points wise.
Yep. Well, we can go over, but yeah, I wish there was a little bit more to it, but yeah.
Yeah, I wish it was everything that they did with points is great and fine. I wish there was an errata with Dark Troopers that was also in there.
Yeah, but this could be one of those things like, all right, if I'm the game developer, right? Yes, I've seen what's going on, right? I've heard us talk about it. I've heard people writing about it. Like, I understand. But I guess if we're accusing them often of pulling too many levers.
Yeah.
And so as the dev, I go, well, let's increase the points and see if that weeds some of this out. And if it doesn't, then we'll errata. You know what I mean? But let's hold off on that because I mean, Jesus, they've been out for 3 months.
3 months.
You know what I mean? So it's like,
well, and I think going into this points update, there were two like glaringly obvious things that they needed to do if they did nothing else at all, and that was nerf Blizzard Force and nerf Dark Troopers, and they did both of those things. And I think they did Blizzard Force in a way that like is really effective. You know, they hit the HRUs by 10, which I think is great. That's a big increase for what is functionally a core unit. You know, they're 84 points now for the whole thing, I think.
Something like that. Yeah.
84. And that's a lot for a core unit. Now, granted, like they're great and they have a great range 4 attack, and I think their cost is now essentially perfectly justified, and I would still take them if I were running a Blizzard Force list rather.
Yep.
I would not run a Blizzard Force list though, because I can't do it with Operative Vader. I think that's a great change from a theme perspective. Like, he never should have been in it in the first place.
He wasn't there. He wasn't an operative. He was a commander. He was compelling those snow troopers forward.
Yeah, it's like a year before Vader dies. It's not
right. Yeah.
His early Jedi Hunter days.
Right.
So I think that's great from a balance perspective, from a theme perspective. As somebody that abused the crap out of Blizzard Force, I think all of that is awesome.
You did it, Kyle. You were fishing. Congratulations, everyone. What a hero after all.
It only took 5 months of playing Blizzard Force into the ground. So that's all great. I think the Dark Trooper points increases are meaningful. You know, for a double Dark Trooper list, it's plus 24 points, which is a lot. You can't run some of the most degenerate Dark Trooper lists anymore. You can't run like double bounty, double Dark Trooper, which was a thing you can do. I think technically you still can, but you have to use like Cad Bane and Bosk naked, basically. Which whatever. You can still run Boba Fett double Dark Troopers, because that list previously, the one that was popular, had 2 of the extra Dark Troopers in it, which is 64 points. So you just cut one of those basically, and that eats the Boba Fett increase and then also the Dark Troopers increase, and it's functionally the same list. So yeah, I feel like it's clearly needed. I wish they would have addressed the structural problem that Dark Troopers have in the game, which is that like because of the combination of full armor and their completely ridiculous offense, if you don't stack, a silly amount of impact, like 10 to 12 plus, they will still just run you over, even though they had to, cut 24 points of upgrades from their list now. And that's with or without the Guardian thing. Like, frankly, I think as cute as the Guardian thing was and as feels bad of a mechanic it was, I don't think the best Dark Trooper lists had IRG in them anyway before this.
Right.
So, this is a step in the right direction. I don't think it might be enough to prevent Dark Troopers from like winning a bunch of stuff. I don't think but I'm not sure they were that kind of list before anyway. They're kind of like they're what they refer to in 40K as like a gatekeeper list, which is you've got to check a box, and that box is actually pretty difficult to check with the amount of impact that you need. And if you don't check that box, you simply just cannot win against this type of list. And I don't think it changes that at all. So it definitely makes it harder to like cram a bunch of stuff into an efficient double Dark Trooper list. But it doesn't really change the fact that the Dark Troopers themselves will just avalanche straight over you if you don't have 10 to 12 impact in your list.
Yeah. Or at least some impact Pierce too to help counteract some of that.
If you have impact Pierce combination,
yeah, the Pierce makes a big difference.
It does,
from what I've seen. But yeah, well, and I think I agree with you, Jay. And I said this in our Discord. It's like I like them pulling levers small, like little by little. As long as we keep that up, that's fine. But like, I'd much rather have smaller increments and updates than huge changes that you then just have to deal with for a year.
Yeah, I mean,
so yeah, I'm okay with that.
Overall, that's what they did until we get to Force Choke. Sure. And then they were like all the levers.
Yeah. All right, I don't want to get there yet.
We'll get there in a second.
Let's finish the Empire conversation real quick.
All right. I'm sorry.
E-Web down 5. E-Web down 5 points. Hooray, everyone.
E-Web down
E-Webs
5.
are fixed.
Hang on. Callus went down 15 because his bow rifle also went down 10. He's 90 points.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I'd like to say that I ordered Callus on Friday.
Callus double back.
Because I actually posted a list. I think it was Callus, Iden, Boba. I posted a list on Thursday or Friday, and I was like, hey, this actually looks pretty interesting. And between the cost increase to Boba and the cost decrease to Callus, it actually went down by 5 points.
All right. There you go.
So I'm like, I'll just add improvised orders to Callus, and it's the same cost.
There you go. Yeah.
So yeah, he was already sort of interesting to me before as like a solution to the one problem I have when I'm making Empire lists with Iden and or bounty hunters in it is just too many command cards.
Yeah.
And he solves that rather neatly and also gives you a cunning 1-pip if you need it. So
yep.
And ISB investigation, which is I think probably still one of the best command cards in the game.
Agreed. Yeah.
So yeah, I was kind of interested in him before this, and now I got a 15-point cut. So
yeah,
I almost brought him to Worlds.
I
didn't do well with him
a while ago, maybe a year and a half ago. I was playing a Callus Operative Vader list that I thought was good. Like it did well. Overall, I think I played it against when maybe it was about a year and some change, because I played against Evan's Vader lat list, and so I thought it held up okay. It was just a little like there's other stuff you wanted to put in. It was a little pricey, but like with ISB investigation, Vader's 1-pip and then Callus 1-pip, there's like 3 turns where Vader can have orders and you have priority, like, which is so good, right?
Yep.
And so this is a welcome change, and I think this opens up a lot of stuff. I would encourage people looking at like Vader Callus.
Or Callus double bounty. I feel like he's your go-to double bounty commander now.
Yeah. He's so good as a double bounty guy. He's so good as a double bounty. And like his bow rifle is a good shot too.
It's like, pretty good. Yeah, it's 4 dice. He's got tactical. It's got lethal on it. Surge crit with sharpshooter.
Yeah.
The dice are pretty good. Like you're gonna pick up a model or two every time you fire that thing.
Lethal. Yeah.
Right. And with his 1-pip, like he has the opportunity to tie stuff up so that it can't like withdraw, right?
Yep.
So like, I mean, there's some opportunities there, and now he's priced accordingly.
Yeah, I think it's great.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Empire Boba +10.
Yep. Needed.
Totally needed.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
You're still
that's
taking
fine.
him at 130.
Yeah.
He's
Yep.
still the best bounty hunter,
Yep.
I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
I feel like it's the right amount, though. I feel like 15 might have been too far.
Too much. Yeah.
Yes, I agree
Yeah.
with that. I think 10 is
Mhm.
right where he needs to be. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or 10 more is right where he needs to be.
Right.
Yeah, it's just that little boost that recognizes how good he is, but doesn't kneecap him. Like I'm very impressed by the changes, and I know that recently, like I don't know how long, but I know they have a new developer now for Legion, right? And it's been a little while that he's been on, but like, you know, I think these are all very, very responsible, reasonable changes, and all made sense to the game, like, which I'm very happy about. So yeah, good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I would say,
that's
too,
true.
these are much more targeted than the last round.
Yeah.
The last round was kind of like, you know, the nuke where like you hit the thing that obviously needed to be nerfed, and then also everything else that's like remotely related to it. And these to me are more targeted. Now, obviously the problems themselves were more narrow too. Like, nerfing Blizzard Force, like there's no real way to nerf Blizzard Force and also like hurt rebels somehow, right?
Yeah.
Same with Dark Troopers, right? It's not as tangly of a problem, but still, like these are, to me, these points changers are much more like specifically targeted at the actual issue in a way that I think is good, with the exception of Force Choke.
Yep.
I will say too, so the both dewback, or I shouldn't say both, 2 of the 3 dewback heavies went down.
Yep.
So yeah, the flamethrower went down by 5 more points, and then the RTC, that one actually throws me off that it went down to 5 more points, which it's just 5 now, right? So isn't it the same cost as the range 3
That's
one?
the T21. Yeah,
that's a little like, I'm
that's
not saying I
interesting.
disagree with it, but it makes it really interesting, because like before you'd be like, well, I'm just taking the range 3 one gun because it's cheaper,
right?
But now you have a range 4 platform with Relentless that can just
they're
move
the
around.
same cost.
Yeah,
Right.
but it's good because it also asks the question of like, and this was always a question before that you would start with the dewbacks was, okay, do I want the range 3 and get the critical, or do I want, or will I take range 4 so I have that extra range band? But now, and then you're just like, well, I'm going to take the 3 because it's cheaper. But now it's like, well, now they're the same. Well, now I can kind of build out a little bit more to my army, right? And like, for instance, like when I was running a double heavy list with 2 dewbacks, now I could put in range 4 weapons. That helps. That makes them a little bit more versatile, a little bit more that Swiss Army knife.
Here's the thing, though. I completely disagree. I think the choice is absolutely still the T21, because you are never, ever punching through cover with a RT97C. Unless you just roll crits on it, and then you might as well have critical.
Well, I mean, isn't that just what Luke Cook does?
Let's roll crits.
If the world champion can do it, I can do it.
I'm intrigued mostly really by the flamer going down, because now it makes it more.
Yeah, that one's kind of interesting. I'm more interested in that one.
It used to be more of, I felt like you would play,
especially with the Ewoks coming.
Yeah.
Yes, that's true. God, that's true. But like with the T21, you're like, okay, I'm gonna skirt a little bit because I have range 3, and I'm trying to do all these kind of gamey things with him. And now if I have a flamethrower on him, I'm kind of, obviously you want to try and hide best you can, but like running, like I'm
get in there.
Yeah, just go. And in these days, you can't cover with or get cover from them, or get cover with them, or from them, or anything. So just go. They're useless for anything other than getting into melee. So go for it. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess, Kyle, the reason I disagree, the 3, because and Tim, I guess, has probably played dewbacks more than I have. But I have found that there was points with the dewbacks where I needed them to shoot something, but I also didn't want them to get that close yet. And so like being able to aim shoot at range 4 is like a nice option to just it's just a nice it's all about like list building, like how your list is being built and the makeup of it, where I think there definitely it's going to be options or times with a list that you're going to be like, yeah, that range 3 critical is more ideal for what I'm trying to build. But in my head when I was building what my particular list build, I was like, man, I could really use range 4 on these 2-backs. Like that would be
Yeah,
much
that's
better.
fair. I just think as
I-
long as your expectation is that it's going to be better than doing nothing, and that you're going to throw a suppression out at range 4,
Yeah.
and that's probably all it's going to be.
Well, and
Then
really,
that's fine.
sometimes that's all you need.
Yeah.
Well, and the thing too to say, even though I was just talking about the range 4 is being cool. I mean, with that size base and relentless and spur, you're probably going to get to range 3 really quickly anyway. So it normally doesn't
Yeah,
super
for
duper
sure,
matter.
for sure.
But yeah, if you at least you have the option now.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Should we talk about Force Choke?
Let's talk about Force Choke.
Okay. AMG, if you're listening, I want you to know that I'm 99% happy with what you did. So what I'm about to say does not reflect my entire thoughts on your changes in general. It's just this one change.
All right, go ahead, Jay.
Okay. I was like, I'm looking at everything going, perfect. Yep, I get it. I mean, you could have done more, but hey, I get it. You're just testing the waters. And then Force Choke, like before, when we saw the points yesterday, before we saw the erratas, we all were like, yeah, 5 points. That makes total sense. 10 points for Force Choke, fine, right? Like, okay, reasonable. Then you see and then you see Dooku coming down, and you see this other stuff. You're like, yep, okay, great, fine, all right, yep, that's gonna be good. And then you get the errata, and you're like, well, why did we increase it by 5 points and do this? Why do both? You essentially, like, it's worthless. It's just, I mean, it's a wound. Okay, fine, it's a wound, Tim, but like, it's not what it was meant to be, and it does not make it half as scary. I mean, you might as well it's just Pierce. It's just an additional Pierce. Like, okay, like, who
I
cares?
agree. I will give you this. I agree that they should not have done the errata and the points. However, that said, what we just got done talking about with their adjustments of points going back and forth, that's easily fixable. Like, that's fine. I don't imagine we're going to re-errata it, that's fine. Please, God, don't. Please leave it like this. That's the way it should be. But like,
No, it is.
yeah, sure,
wrong.
sure. The points didn't need to go up as well. But like, it's still a wound that's just free.
Okay, let me ask you this question. All right.
It's not free.
Action.
It's a Force
an
slot,
action.
Jim.
It's a oh my God.
And if you don't have
I know.
Master of the Force, like,
Sure.
so let me ask, okay, let's just ask ourselves this. I'm going to have you answer this, Tim, and maybe you, Kyle. What problem were we trying to solve with this change? And I'm not being facetious. Like, I'm just asking, what problem were we trying to solve?
The fact that you can run in there with what was a 5-point upgrade.
Hang on. Because I feel like this is a horrible way to discuss Force upgrades. Because Force Push suffers from the same fate. It is not a 5-point upgrade. It is a minimum 165-point upgrade. Because you cannot give it to a Stormtrooper unit. The cheapest unit you can give, I guess, Ventress now, right? The cheapest unit you can give Force Choke to was 150 points.
Yeah, 50.
Which was 30 more points than Boba Fett. And that's the cheapest one you could give Force Choke to.
But the fact that
please continue.
There's and I hear that, and I want you to know when I was imagining,
stupid idiot.
when I was imagining this conversation before, I said, I guarantee you, and I said this to myself, I said it out loud because no one's home other than the dogs.
Yeah.
I said, I guarantee you Kyle's going to mention the platform it's on. So I'm glad I'm right about something.
Yep.
So that's
So you knew you were wrong coming into that conversation. So, all right.
I knew the other.
I think it's, and I'm going to give my full opinion here in a minute. I want to hear what you have to say too. I think it's totally fair to have an issue with how it works from a play experience perspective. I really dislike it when people refer to Force upgrades as like, whoa, it's only 5 points. You know, it is not only 5 points. It is not the same thing as
that's fair. That's fair.
Like tenacity, right? So anyway, please continue.
But kind of to that point, but like it's not, but it's still just an upgrade. And the fact that you can get an upgrade on an expensive platform that just erases like a 29-point unit, just gone. That I can say that heavy, just gone. You could nuke my Force user next turn. And you know what? I've erased your heavy, which is again, hey, like that's a lot of points to kill one heavy. I get that. But my other problem is this. And
hang on.
we don't. Okay.
You know, I think the most ridiculous upgrade in the game is Cassian's rifle. It's free, and you can cause 1 wound at unlimited range, sometimes 2, for completely free. It is 0 points.
It's true. It shouldn't be free. You're right. Thank you for pointing that. It should be 5 points, but yes. Anyway, good
Sorry,
point.
continue.
No, you're absolutely right.
100% free.
My bigger thing is this: is that when you again use it for a ranged heavy, it feels bad, but it's also when you use it for, if I have like a whipcord that I'm using that to have a melee counter, I'm trying to have a melee counter, you just automatically cancel my melee counter. That's it. It's done. I don't got a chance. There's no dice. There's no nothing. You just kill it. That's awful. That's an awful design space. It shouldn't have existed in the first place.
Okay, let me ask you a question. It hasn't been that big of a problem for the past 5 years.
I disagree completely, but okay.
I mean,
from a balance perspective, I think you could disagree from a play experience perspective.
I think people have been screaming about this for a long time, but okay.
Darkside Force users have not been cleaning up the world of Legion until they buffed Operative Vader.
Okay.
And Force Choke has existed for that entire time period. Furthermore, one of the best Force users in the game, and one of the most commonly used ones, is Anakin Skywalker. If Force Choke is the best Force upgrade in the game, why doesn't Anakin take it?
No, it's not. Force Push is the best. Let's not be silly.
Okay, fine. If Force Choke is the second best,
anymore, it isn't.
Yes,
yeah. If Force Choke is the second best Force upgrade in the game, why doesn't Anakin take it?
Because Anakin can do more. Because Anakin's
with other Force upgrades,
right? Because Anakin's different.
Yeah,
Anakin's the exception. Because his list.
You know, that's exactly what he thought before he moved to the dark side.
Anakin would agree
I'm
with you.
just saying, it's a bad design space. It's a bad design space that you can just delete selected units. Be like, nope, gone. Nope, gone. Just not good.
Right. Okay. So, but what I guess what I was getting at and asking the question was bad. Is that really the whole reason and the whole uproar, right, was mostly Vader recently, right? And I would
and Shadow Collective Maul, arguably.
And Shadow Collective Maul,
yeah.
but mostly Vader, and I would say mostly Blizzard Force was a big problem, and so I think raising the points, pulling Vader out of Blizzard would have solved 90% of those problems. And instead, like the thing I'm praising them for doing with the rest of these changes, which was, hey, let's just do some points changes and see if that and do this Operative Vader thing and see if that fixes the issue. And then if we need to like really errata it, like we'll make the errata changed once we realize it didn't work. But they didn't. They were just like, we're going to raise the points. But it was pointless, because if you just did the errata, that would have been fine. You didn't need to do both.
I think if they had even not touched the points and just done the errata, I think it goes from, I think you still don't take it.
Yeah.
Personally.
I probably agree with that too. Yeah. That's probably true.
But it's like also, I mean, poor Separatists here, like they could previously run 3 Force users in the same list with Force Choke, and they didn't because it wasn't good. And
that's debatable, but okay.
Okay, fine. Well, I mean, that was legal before Worlds, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think you had a lot of time to practice that, but yes.
Okay. Anyway, my point is, I think I'm sort of 2 minds on this. I think that if you want to say that like removing individual models automatically with no dice rolled and no decisions involved, no counterplay involved from the defender, other than the fact that it's a rare upgrade and it's short ranged. If you want to say that feels bad and a player experience thing, 100%, I get that, right? That's totally understandable. From a balance perspective, I don't think that Darkside Force users were a problem recently, except for Operative Vader and possibly Shadow Collective Maul, and I don't think that they have been for most of the game's history. and this upgrade has existed from literally day one in the core set. So I would have, if you want to increase force choke by 5 points, all right, fine. But I would have loved to see some increases to Vader and Shadow Collective Maul instead of the way that they errated it. You know, you're like force choke. The whole point of force choke is that you got to pick a model. That's like the thing that it did.
Right.
True. That's true.
So making it so that you can't do that anymore, you're essentially saying, all right, no more force choke. Like, I get that it's a free wound. There will still be times.
Well, it's not free, Kyle. Come on, it's not free.
Okay, right. Sorry.
It's 170 points, Kyle.
Yeah.
You said it yourself.
I get that you can cause a wound without rolling dice
with
your unit that is twice as expensive as most other premium units. And there will be times probably when you still, when like one of the most effective / common ways to use force choke was like you got one mini left in the unit that you're attacking, which particularly for Vader was common because he has 5 to 6 dice with Pierce 3, and most units have 4 to 6 models in them. So it was extremely common specifically for Vader because he has such a reliable dice pool with high Pierce to end up with exactly one model in melee with you. I would say that's less of the case for the other dark side force users, just because their dice pools tend to have more variance in them, so they weren't using choke like that as often anyway. But yeah, I think this is a huge nerf to dark side force users. I think Vader needed it. I think Shadow Collective Maul arguably needed it, although he got hurt quite a bit by the deflect change also. Yeah. I think all of the other dark side force users from a balance perspective were fine. And frankly, I also think it's actually good for the game to have some mechanics that completely bypass defenses, because otherwise your best lists are the ones that just stack excessive amounts of defensive tech. And there's two things I'm thinking of right now that immediately benefit from this force choke nerf. The first is Republic dodge spam lists with lots of core heavies in them, which was already good, and now does not have to worry about Vader getting in there and bypassing all those dodges and those red saves and removing their heavy weapons. The other is Dark Troopers, which force choke is one of the primary counters to Dark Troopers.
Yes, agree with that. But you still got to worry about if a force user comes in the middle of your lines, like they're still going to start killing everybody with all the Pierce and all. Like
I think that's not like as someone that plays useless. A lot of force users. Fair. I get that their lightsabers have Pierce. I get that they have reliable dice on them. You can get that for half the cost of a force user and a Wookiee chieftain.
That's what I said. That's what I said weeks ago, remember? And everyone got mad at somehow they got mad at you for it, by the way. I don't know how that happened, but
so
my point is like if all you're doing with a force user is swinging their lightsaber, you're not getting your money's worth. And the reason that light side force users are still good and competitive without access to force choke is because light side force users tend to have two things. They tend to have more support abilities that directly affect the units that you're taking. Yoda and Anakin are, case in point for this. And they tend to have access to more defensive tech and specifically more dodge tokens. You've got Anakin and Ahsoka both have defend. Yoda gets dodge tokens just for sneezing, basically. So like there aren't, Shadow Collective Maul has 2 ways to get dodge tokens, and they're both on command cards. Or he can take the dodge action, I guess, right?
That's true.
Ventress has independent dodge, so she's probably of all the dark side force users, she's probably the one that has the best access to dodge tokens, but she also has the least health of any force user base.
Right.
So I feel like this was a big part of the identity of dark side force users. It leaned into their aggressive style and their ability to kill things better than their light side counterparts, whereas their light side counterparts had more defensive tech and support abilities. And now I'm looking at force users and I'm like, the only 2 force users I have any interest now in playing are Yoda and Anakin.
Yeah, and I think for me, the specific change to this I have an issue with, but also the systemic depowering of force users and just making them not special. And like we're paying, and we've talked about this, we're paying premium, and not only in the points, but in order to do some of the stuff, like tactically speaking, like you have to be smart and you have to get them in a position. And like there's a lot of opportunity, as Kyle knows from his worlds, like of getting shot and losing a force user that you spent a lot of money on to get them into position. And so I find that when we make these changes to because of this isn't you so much, Tim, but you did say this, is these feels bad moments where I just feel like they go, oh, well, that feels bad. Let's go ahead and change that. And they're not looking holistically at the force user and what it takes in order to get a force user into that position. And I think force choke, deflect, and the new changes on the forum of force push are all examples of that feels bad change, because they just had a bad experience with it and they weren't really thinking holistically of how the force user got into that position, how many opportunities they had to kill them on the way into that position, and then what, like all the points I had to pay for that, all the gymnastics I had to do to get it there, and tactically speaking how I had to play in order to get myself into that position to finally use that power.
Right. See, and I think maybe here's because I agree with you on that part, because it's not just there's the feels bad part of it, but that shouldn't be everything. Right. If we're going to say this game is competitive, which it is, then it should not just be does it feel bad or
by their own definition, right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It should be more than that. That should be maybe a factor, but not the factor. But I think maybe where I see it as okay and why I see it okay, I still think that force users and dark side, in this case, dark side force users are still useful enough anyway. And I could be wrong, and that's fine. I'll take that. But like that's why I think
played a lot of them.
Yeah.
I disagree.
And that's fine. Right. That's what I'm saying. That's fine. Well, but that's where I'm coming from, is I think they're still useful enough on their own.
So, and here's where just to kind of explain my side, like maybe, right? And it depends on how you're looking at it, right? But holistically, from a game standpoint, use it like choke and force push as examples with the changes that they made, things that you specifically put the force user in there for to counter stuff or to build to your objectives or stuff like that, right, is just taken away from them. And those were the few things left that were actually making these, certain force users viable. OP Vader, Luke, OP Luke, like certain things like these force powers that they had that were making them viable to like even take anymore.
Hold on, force push is still really, really, really good.
It is, but you can take force push on light side force users that already were good without the crush that is force choke.
Right.
I would say force push is good. It's not as good as it once was.
It's specifically worse for objectives.
Yes.
Which I think affects
is the whole point of the game.
Well, yes.
Yes.
I think that affects part of the reason that my hot take earlier is like Anakin's the only force user I want to play now is the force user's job. The force user really has two jobs. Their primary job is objective play. And their secondary job, if they have them, is to support the other units in their army. And I think Anakin is uniquely positioned with respect to both the choke and the push nerfs because his primary job is actually not objective play, but to support his army. So the fact that you're, hitting force users' abilities to be uniquely good on certain objectives, it affects him less because that's not his role anyway.
And Yoda too. I would put Yoda in that same.
Yoda likes to move those objectives.
Yoda really leans into that objective play. Yeah. Even though he also has abilities that support the units that are around him. He really thoroughly leans into that objective play, especially if you run him with Chewie, which most people do nowadays.
Right. I don't dive him. I don't dive Yoda normally until I know my objectives are more secure.
Yeah.
Normally.
Right. So That's a long way of saying I agree with Jay that they're really watering down the identity of Force users, which is unfortunate in a universe that is all supposed to be all about Force users. I mean, look at Shatterpoint, right? But I also agree with the people that think that Force Choke was a feels bad mechanic. I think that's a fair thing, given as much work as you have to do to set it up, that it's short range, it's on a platform that is expensive, it's fragile. Personally, I think that was fine, but I get where those people are coming from. I wish that if that was the, and that's probably a big significant part of why this was done. If that's the case, you got to give something back to the dark side Force users from a balance perspective, because I think for the most part,
I agree with that.
Other than Operative Vader, I think dark side Force users were not, they weren't lighting up the leaderboards anyway. And now you've universally hit their ability to interact with objectives and to have an effect on the game by choking out heavies.
No, I agree with that. I think that would be a good compromise, because
and I'm not talking about 10 points on Dooku.
No, I know.
Yeah,
but it would be a points discussion, at least on some.
I think it would have to be more than points. Like if you're going to say that here's my thing. Here's my idea for Force Choke 3.0, I guess. If you want to say that dark side Force users are supposed to be more aggressive and kill more things than their light side Force users, which, given that light side Force users, as previously mentioned, tend to have better defense and more support abilities, makes sense. I think if you're going to make it so that Force Choke is not about removing specific minis, which is previously the whole point of the ability, then you got to increase how much damage it does. And I'm not saying make it a flat 2, because that would obviously be too much. But make them roll some dice. Do like the
Amban rifle.
Right. Do roll 2 red defense dice. And for every paint you get, the unit within range 1 takes a wound. Sometimes it's going to be none. Sometimes it's going to be 2. Most of the time it's going to be 1. Increase the damage potential. And you're also decreasing the reliability there. And you're making it so that there's a chance that it might not work, which I think is something that they want to lean into with these.
Right. I agree 100%. I just wanted to encourage that point. It reminds me of Ventress's command card of that 1 pip, or sorry, the 2 pip card.
The spray card.
The spray card. It's potential for a lot of damage. It's not guaranteed, but it's a potential. I think that's a great idea. I'd be on board for that.
Keep it at 10 if you want, I guess. I think it'd be fine at 5 for that ability too. Because 2 red dice seems like a lot, but you actually only have a 44% chance to roll 2 paint on 2 red dice. So it's actually less than 50% chance to get 2 hits.
And I think for me too, not only the kneecapping of these Force users, but it just didn't make any. This the one thing out of and listen, you guys did a great job. They did a great job on everything else. It's just the one thing that made no sense, because it seemed like it was all the levers. So you could have just do the errata and leave it at 5 points. I still wouldn't be happy, but at least I wouldn't be well, now it's absolutely useless, because you've just taken it from great to useless, and you could have just made it okay if you only did one thing. I think even raising it 5 or maybe up to 15, who knows? You could have raised it up of the points, and that would have settled it.
Yeah, I think that's true. And again, I am okay with this change, because it is. I will agree, it is a heavy-handed change. So I'm totally fine if we want to knock it back down to 5 next time around. Sure, go for it.
Make it free, like Cassian's rifle.
Right.
It's not free though. It's on the platform.
Yeah. Free. It's free.
We went long, huh, boys? What a long podcast. This is not what I wanted.
I know. This is the most significant news event we've had since Worlds, probably. So
this is the most significant thing that's happened in Legion in 3 months.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
So
It's a big
All right.
deal. And
They
again,
were-
like you said, great job from 90,
Oh, yeah,
95%
awesome
of it,
job.
99% of it. Yeah. How
Yep.
about that? Good stuff. Good
Yeah,
stuff.
I think they killed it with this, honestly, for
Yeah.
the most part.
Sure.
So,
Yeah.
I would have loved to see some other I would have loved to see them fix payload.
Yeah.
I would never expect it, but I would have loved to see them fix cover. But this is from a points balance perspective, this is all great.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, and the payload stuff and cover stuff like that could be still down the road too. You never
Yeah,
know. But
who knows?
Yeah, you never know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good stuff. Good stuff.
Yep. Awesome. All right. Any final thoughts?
No, I
No.
just want to reiterate 99% great.
Yeah, that's good.
Yep.
I'm
Awesome
excited to
job.
build. As soon as we hang up, I'm gonna start building again. That's it.
I've
Eventually
been
I'll call my
throwing out
wife too, but-
random crazy crap all
Oh
day.
yeah, it's great.
Um,
I love it. And
So I
that's
would
my
say,
thing.
yeah, sorry, Tim. No, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say that's my anytime we get an update, whether I like the updates or not, because there's definitely times I don't like their updates. I do like that it brings fresh life, even if it's annoying life.
Well,
But in
and
this case, it's all good.
yeah, let's be
I
clear
build.
too. I think a lot of us were worried that this wasn't going to do that, right? Like we were worried that the points change either wasn't going to fix the things that were broken or
Right.
wasn't
Right,
going
right.
to, just wasn't going to do enough or whatever it was,
Yeah, yeah.
right? And it
It
actually
did a lot. Yeah.
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 I mean, it cleared up not all, but it cleared up a good percentage of the problems.
It cleared up enough to where we can now take this as a community, go try it out and say like, hey,
Yeah.
great, like maybe a little bit more, or hey, maybe a little bit less or something like that.
Right,
Like
right.
it's enough that we can work with it.
Yeah.
pat
Agreed.
yourselves on the back, AMG.
Yeah, you did a
Yeah,
great
if you're
job.
listening, pat yourselves. Do a little pat.
99% is really good.
Yep.
Yeah.
So good job.
All right. All right. Well, we are the Notorious Scoundrels. I'm Kyle.
I am Jay.
I am Tim.
Stay fresh, cheese bags.
I am Groot.